to our very first ever podcast episode, I guess you could say, of the Warriors Night Out radio broadcast. And we are here with Sanctuary International. And we're going to be spending the next 45 minutes to an hour with you. We've got Mr. Paul Portell with us. And we're going to be joining us here in about 60 minutes. And we've got a lot of things we're going to be covering with Metal Underground. And obviously, in case you didn't realize, we are November starting tomorrow. And with that being said, we are going to be looking at year end. There's been a lot of exciting things that have happened, especially in digital. And so with that, we are going to be looking at two different things that you have an opportunity to talk about the history of the year, and also we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to be close to that and your thoughts and suggestions. Paul has been involved with Holy Metal Underground this coming February for 10 years. That he's been doing that as he's been a pioneer in our industry. We're going to find out more about Paul. We're going to be hearing about the HMU Honors and his involvement with that, and again, of course, talking about your with you. You may be looking at Warriors Night Out for the first time and wondering what is Warriors Night Out. I am favorite, that is my favorite, so to speak, and we have a weekly radio show that is the broadcast arm of Sanctuary International. And we are, you can find us, we air all during the week. We are on multiple stations. The Girl Gospel Rocket Radio in Arkansas, Heavy Metal Streaming Radio come together, the Metal Onslaught by brother Chris Sullivan, and also Death Itself Radio. And that airs all through the course of the week. If you go to our Facebook page, you'll see on that throughout the broadcast. You can always go there. Check out that'll be there right now as Tuesday night. Metal Streaming Radio is still very fair right now, but hopefully we'll forego that and have that for the next hour as we talk about the crazy that happened. And so it also is a couple of things that you introduce yourself with love to get to HJR4, Robert, good to see you, man. I am doing good, and he is a regular visit on Wednesday. And we'll talk about Pastor Bob Live. So we're going to be doing that Bob Live every Wednesday. Tomorrow's going to be a new subject, and we'll get into that. But again, we want to welcome. So you're saying my volume is just low. Let me go ahead and pop that up here a little bit. Hopefully that is very, very feedback on that. And HR is, again, love the 7-Day Players players. I got to work with those guys last year. They came to the facility where I work at. I work at a treatment recovery center, and they came and ministered to our guys. And was absolutely awesome. So yeah, I wear this hoodie loud and proud. So let me get our ticker going here so you guys can keep up. A lot of different things that goes on here with this. And so, speaking of which, I do want to remind you guys of a couple of different things. This coming weekend, Sanctuary related, we are going to be having our Thanksgiving together with Sanctuary. We'll go ahead and comment here for 50 minutes so everybody's going on. Big weekend coming up this weekend. Sanctuary Talk Out, if I'd like to say. This weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, and also birthday weekend, as you know, we are going to be celebrating Pastor Bob's birthday this coming weekend. So if you're at all possible able to take your way to the Nashville area, we want to invite you to come and join us. Saturday afternoon, and then also on Sunday morning, 242 at the Storehouse. Pastor Bob has got a facility on the property of his house where they do separations between the homeless. And during this weekend, we worked out into a cafe. We had a chance to be part of it last month, and the absolutely fantastic. So again, this is probably going to be the last weekend for the winter months. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to come be a part of that. The theme for this weekend is I Will Cling to the Old Rugged Cross. Again, that is going to be Saturday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you can probably cross with the people grab a hotel in the Brennan area. Join us for Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. And so again, we would love to get a chance to see you. Let's take a look at comments here, what we got coming in. Shout out to David Belt. Yo, fellas, what's happening? Again, Paul will be joining us. You'll have a chance to say hi. No, I can see him in the shadows of the green room, so to speak, and I can tell he's really smiling at me. And so, Dave, great to see you. Yeah, music can go on there. Yes, we have that just kind of this little novelty. But again, hopefully you'll take an opportunity to listen to Warriors Night Out during the week. If for some reason you're not able to catch it on one of the nights, you can find it on intentionradio.com, which is again part of Sanctuary. We archive all of our episodes there. There is a link to Spotify, so you can make it there to check out the show. Maybe just a shout out, let us know if because of the show. We did just release a brand new episode on Monday, and so that's airing all through the week, so make sure you get an opportunity to check that out. Again, as you're coming in, make sure to post your comments. We are going to take a little bit of a breather here. I talk for a living, so sometimes kind of maintaining the energy and everything can be kind of fun. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to be back with Mr. Paul PORTELL. We're going to get a break here from our friends at Demons Behind Me, clothing and accessories, and great ministry down in Jacksonville, Florida, doing some great things. And if you're looking for some holiday swag, great company to look at. Also, shout out to Anthony Gober at Anchor Merchandising. Anchor's doing some great stuff for the metal community, and supporting ministries like Sanctuary, Warriors Night Out. We're actually going to have some new swag coming down the line, and we will introduce that once that comes available, probably next week. So if you're doing some early Christmas shopping, consider gift cards from Demons Behind Me and also Anchor Merchandise. And so again, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with Mr. Paul PORTELL, and we're going to open up conversation. We look forward to having everybody here with us. And again, we'll be right back in just a moment. Let me hide my ticker, and we'll be right back here in just a moment.
Demons Behind Me is a mantra that we have created a clothing brand behind. My business partner and I, we worked together at a restaurant in Jacksonville Beach. I was looking to start a clothing line, but I really wanted to have a mantra that had a positive impact on society. So we were talking one day after a shift, and he was telling me about his tattoo on his calf. He told me everybody asked what it means, and I tell him that I put it there because I put my demons behind me. As soon as Chris said demons behind me, I was like, that's it, man. That is the mantra that I'd been looking for. And the way that people attached to it was like nothing we could have ever imagined. So my personal connection with Demons Behind Me really didn't happen until we were about 7 years into the company. Unfortunately, I lost my sister to a heroin overdose. She was a nurse. She struggled with anxiety, and unfortunately, she struggled with an addiction that nobody really knew about. So I know we have Demons Behind Me. I know it has a positive impact. People really relate to our mantra, and that just really motivates me to keep pushing forward. When people wear Demons Behind Me, somebody's going to ask you what it is, and that's your opportunity to share what you're going through or why you wear it, or maybe who you're wearing it for, because maybe it's not just for you, maybe it's for your son or your daughter, your brother, your sister. So that's what hits home for me.
Demons demonsbehindme.com. Make sure you go over there, visit them. I got all kinds of swag from them, and they are a great organization to partner with. And I put that strategically right there because, as I mentioned, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, we are going to be doing Pastor Bob Live. And this is going to be a little bit of a different episode because, as you heard Jim talk about, one of the things about Demons Behind Me, they do mental health awareness, but also addiction. And we are going to be having a special episode of PBL tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. with Pastor Bob and myself. We are going to be welcoming the drummer from the band Fear Not, Mr. Gary Hansen. Gary has a background. He is in recovery. So he is going to be sharing his journey and talking about his story in addiction, as well as my good friend, the Louisville representative of Isaiah House Treatment Center. Troy was a standout baseball player for the University of Louisville. And demographics know no age. They know no lifestyle. They know no demographic. Troy will share his story. And of course, as you know, Pastor Bob and Sanctuary, they have been involved in the homeless ministry for a lot of years, and they continue to serve in the homeless community. And one of the aspects of the homeless community that is very rampant is addiction. And so we're going to take opportunity to talk about that and to share that. And if you know somebody who is in addiction or is struggling with their recovery, I want to encourage you to invite them tomorrow morning. Even if you can't come tomorrow morning, that episode will be archived. We want to make sure that we're able to share stories of hope and support and encouragement. I think we've all been faced with the monster of addiction in one way or another, whether it's been family or friends or loved ones. And tomorrow I'm honored to get a chance to join Pastor Bob along with Gary and Troy. And we are going to maybe kind of pull the stigma back because people have an idea of what addiction is or what people in addiction are going through. And so, again, I want to encourage you tomorrow morning, take time to visit with us. And so without any further ado, I am going to be joined by Mr. Paul PORTELL. Paul is with Holy Metal Underground. And let's go ahead and pop him on screen. Paul, welcome.
Sorry, I fell asleep with my face in the mud.
Yeah, I know. Just listen to me ramble, brother. Dude, I'm so happy to have you here with us. And
I am blessed to be here.
Yep. Got a great evening of conversation ahead of us, and want to take an opportunity to find out a little bit about you, what you've got going on. And again, this has been an exciting 2023. And again, we want to get some feedback from you. We're going to revisit.
But before we move on, we'll let everyone know that's in my Halloween costume. I'm supposed to be a hardworking mechanic or coal miner, whichever you prefer.
You know what? I was going to break out my Steelers Lucha gear.
Halloween's the devil's holiday, right?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Some we maintain a level of professionalism here at the Warriors broadcast, and you're looking at me like, dude, you ain't right. So, but man, it's such an honor to have you again here, Paul. And
I'm blessed to be here.
I guess the first question I really want to ask you is, I'd love to kind of hear your background as a Christ follower and how you were first introduced to Christian music, particularly what was your draw to Christian metal?
Wow, that is a loaded question, actually. I mean, it goes back to when I was like, I was raised in church, so so I always had Christian music around me, whether it be like Maranatha Music's Music Machine or Bullfrogs and Butterflies. That was something I liked listening to when I was a kid.
Bullfrogs and Butterflies is classic music, bro.
Yeah, and I didn't know it was Barry McGuire at the time, So, yeah. But anyway, my mom introduced me to some Christian hip hop with DC Talk, PID, and ETW.
Oh yeah.
And I was getting into that for a little while. But my first taste of Christian metal was 1986. My brother had just bought the Striper Soldiers Under Command cassette.
Okay.
And so any hard music that I got into is whatever my brother was listening to at the time. So it was in our house when he had blasting, it was either Striper or White Cross. And so that was my first foray into a Christian metal. And then into the mid to late 90s, when Solid State began, that's when I started getting more into the heavier stuff like Focused and Unashamed, Living Sacrifice, Demon Hunter, anything that was Solid State, Tooth and Nail related that was heavy. That's where it was at. And then of course it eventually transitioned into me getting into more like bands that are on like the Face Down Records label, and as well as Imperium Records and Rox Records as well. And I've just been heavily involved with it since 2002 and have loved every minute of it.
It sounds like we're pretty equal on our front and our involvement with Christian music. And Paul, I couldn't let you all do me.
Is that a Lucha Libre? Is that a Lucha Libre mask you have on?
The sport
oh, it's a Steelers mask.
I mean, you can have Lucha Libre and Pittsburgh Steelers together. Shout out to Jonathan Johnson and his wife Amy, good brother.
You must have thought of that at the last second.
Yeah, I just conveniently happened to have it, close by. And
that's great.
I couldn't let you outdo me there, and so name the defining record that really set you on the trajectory for your passion for Christian metal. I know we're not afraid to ask the hard questions, Paul.
Oh, I'd have to say, even though they've been around since '89, the album that really started getting me more interested in the heavier stuff, especially like metal and the core genres, has to be by far Living Sacrifice, the album Reborn. I just loved a lot of the stuff on that album, whether it was Reject, Reborn, Empowered, Liar, Threatened. That was like the first metal album that I listened to on my own that I enjoyed one song after the next.
That's great. Yeah, you and I are two peas in a pod, bro. The Reborn record was absolutely landmark.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the Reborn record was definitely a landmark. I remember my brother Gary Klein, I was at my sophomore year of college at the University Valley Forge, and he introduced me to that self-titled debut album. And like you, I was doing PID, I was doing DC Talk, I was, doing Michael English. I was, kind of in the contemporary realm. I mean, I was a Striper fan, and I was listening to a lot of urban gospel too, like Helen Baylor, Kirk Franklin, the Family, anyone related to the Winans family. I was listening to a little bit of everything except for country and teen pop through the 90s. That's wild. Folks, as you're coming in, make sure you drop your comments. We'd love to hear from you, where you're listening or watching from, and we'd love to post your comments and any questions that you've got. Again, if you're just joining us, I'm with Paul PORTELL with Holy Metal Underground. And Paul, tell us about when you decided to go full dive in. Again, as you mentioned in our one-on-one conversation, coming up this February is going to be 10 years that you're involved with, that you launched Holy Metal Underground. Tell us about the thought processes behind the launch of that platform.
Well, it was just like, it was around February 2014. A random thought had come to me. It was like 30 years had passed since the first commercially successful Christian metal album, which was the Yellow and Black Attack by Striper. Obviously, a stepping stone in the evolution of modern Christian music. And I was looking for groups on Facebook that was kind of going to give attention to the 30th anniversary of that album. And when I saw that no one was doing it, I was like, well, maybe I'll just do on my own and invite a few of my friends and see where it goes from there. And so it started out as celebrating 30 years of Christian metal. Then a year goes by, and I changed it to 30 plus years of Christian metal. And then I was like, okay, if I'm going to keep this group open for several years to come, I need a change. And so I changed it to Holy Metal Legacy. And then around 2017 is when I was like attending festivals like Audio Feed and Chains Unchained. When I was getting more into like the underground and independent bands, I was like, you know what? This group needs to reflect my current exploits and journeys, and that's when I changed it to Holy Metal Underground. However, I still respect the greats of the past, even though 90% of the group is dedicated to the lesser known bands and the ones that you don't hear about every day through radio and music mags. And and it's just opened me up into a whole new world of amazing music that's ministry based first and music second, and I'm looking forward to seeing where year 10 takes the group. Uh-oh.
I had to cough, so I muted my microphone. My apologies for that. I didn't want to.
I was like, oh no, he's doing a silent.
Yeah, that's my doing my mime.
Okay.
You got covered real well with the face makeup, and so, but that was kind of the mindset of the concept of Warriors Night Out radio broadcast, because as the Christ community, as Christ followers, we always hear about, going to battle, the spiritual war.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure, Paul, you've heard this as well, talking about the validity of Christian metal, and can you use this extreme genre of music to reach others with the gospel. War is not pretty. It's not quiet. If you listen to the radio show, I've taken the mindset of the concept of Warriors Night Out, and shout out to Dale Thompson. Dale actually does the introduction of my show. And I think really encapsulates the fact that as a body of Christ and as a metal community, hashtag we are metal, we are family. We're not quiet, we're not silent. There's a world that is fighting for a generation and has chokeholds on our society, and so representing not only the Christian metal community, but we're also representing the body of Christ, and it's really super essential. And so we'll talk about the state of the industry, and actually let's do that now, Paul.
Okay.
So you're coming up 10 years. I'd be curious to know, over the last 10 years, how you've seen our industry developed, and maybe kind of give us a brief overview of kind of what you see the state of the Christian metal community, musically and ministry-wise.
Well, for starters, I like to give attention to Dorn Reppert with Immortal Fest. I really appreciate him getting together a bunch of classic Christian metal bands from the 80s and 90s that have been out of the limelight for a long time, but recently making a comeback as some of these older mainstream metal bands like Slayer, Metallica, Anthrax, and Judas Priest are slowly becoming forgotten because of the bands that Gen Zers are getting into, like Asking Alexandria, Asleep Token's another one, Escape the Fate. So I really appreciate Dorn doing that, bringing together bands like Barren Cross, Fear Not, Daniel Band, Sacred Warrior, and even some modern current bands like Disciple, Chaotic Resemblance, and Theocracy. And I've always loved those bands as well. So what I really would like to see is a resurgence of the 80s/90s Christian metal movement, but with a modern twist to it, without watering down the gospel in any way, shape, or form. Because let's face it, there are a lot of modern churches that are using worship music that kind of conforms to modern society, and and it's at a higher level than it should be, and and so basically, my heart's desire is to see that scene, the Christian metal scene of the 80s, expand once again in the 21st century, but with a modern theme to it, while staying relevant as it had been 30 or so years ago.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Let me ask you this, and I mean, just very clearly, your thought. The Christian metal community over the last 10 years, do you think we've taken steps forward? Do you think we've taken steps backwards? Do you think that there's been a progression in our community?
We've taken a huge step back, unfortunately. And the reason why I say that is, you know about the deconstruction movement, right?
Yes.
Bands like, and it's a lot of core bands like Mailings and the Sons of Disaster, As Hell Retreats, Gideon, Norma Jean, Silent Planet. They have this really weird sense of thinking that they need to unlearn the biblical principles they grew up with, because apparently they've now matured past that phase, and I just can't make sense of it, because Christ said to his disciples that you shall have no part of me unless you come to me with the faith of a little child. So while 1 Corinthians 13, chapter 13, verse 11 says, when I was a child, I thought as a child and spoke as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. I severely doubt Paul the Apostle was saying that had anything to do with our Christian faith, especially when Christ said that you need to have the faith of a child to come to him. And so a lot of these deconstructed bands have lost sight of that, and they've allowed fame to take over ministry in their personal lives and as a collective. So I'm not really sure how we can rebound from that, except just be more hardcore with the gospel, pull no punches, and do not apologize for being radical about the gospel, because you've seen the news today. We are much closer to a World War III than we were 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
So we need to be steadfast with our faith, even though the Bible says that in the last days there'll be a great falling away, and we're seeing that. We've been seeing that unfold for a long time now,
and that's heartbreaking. And I'm gonna tap into your DC talk mindset for just a second.
Okay.
One quote that I always use when I'm talking with people going to the Jesus Freak record. They have the quote at the beginning of one of the songs, and you'll have to help me with the song, Paul.
Okay.
The greatest cause of atheism today is Christians.
Mm-hmm.
We say one thing and we walk different than our talk, and that's what an unbelieving world finds unbelievable. And so
the quote was by a great visionary and author, Brennan Manning. The quote, as best I remember, is the greatest single cause of atheism today is Christians who acknowledge these with their lips and walk out the door and deny them by their lifestyle. That's what unbelieving world finds unbelievable.
And I think that
he's passed away since then. So his words apparently do not echo well with those that have deconstructed.
Yeah. There's been an infiltration into our society, and particularly through media, social media. There's been a real challenge and a pull. We see what happened recently at the Double Awards. You got people showing up in
Oh
drag
gosh.
and that. And I would just ask, as a community, we pray for clarity and direction and strength and wisdom.
Yeah.
Uh,
The biggest shocker to me was one of those people in drag was Derek Webb of Caedmon's Call.
yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And so
Words escaped me when I heard of that, when I found that out.
I think John Cooper from Skillet actually voiced that same thought.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, it wasn't endorsed by the Double Words community. Obviously, it's an open ticket type deal, so anybody can show up. So it's no slam on the Gospel Music Association.
Yeah.
But I think we're, as you coined, White Cross, that very first record, enough is enough.
Enough is enough. No more white lies. It's time to stand tough.
Bro, we're stereo. Look at us. It's great, man.
Yeah. No more fooling. Because we compromise when we do that.
Right. Exactly. And so, again, I'm honored, man. Again, if you're just joining us, Mr. Paul PORTELL from Holy Metal Underground. Let's take a deep dive, shall we, Paul?
Okay.
And before
I hope I'm not looking away too much. I know that can get annoying.
Your hands a little bit, but no, for the most part, dude, you are fantastic, man. And again,
okay,
it's an honor. But again, Holy Metal Underground, they do have a group on Facebook. Again, you can follow up with them, join that community, be a part. Got over
2,100 members currently.
There you go. And there's no reason that we should just have 2,100, man. This is, we should do everything we can to expand and grow the metal community. And this is a great platform to be able to do that. So tell us very briefly about the HMU Honors. Again, you talked about bands needing to be recognized and an idea of being able to do that. How long has the HMU Honors been in existence? How many years are you into it with that?
Well, I think the first one I did was in 2017. So that would make this one the 7th time I'm doing it. But the reason why I do these HMU Honors is to acknowledge both talent and impact that these bands have had in the underground community. And you don't need like a ceremony like the Dove Awards, to make an impact or realize that you've touched the lives of hundreds upon thousands of people. And this is just a thing. This is just me saying that if you're a member of this group and you want to know what bands to look out for and which bands are currently trending among the underground community by word of mouth, then this is what it is. And I constantly am looking for new bands that pop up on Spotify so I can exploit them and get them more exposure, because not every band, regardless of how well they get known, will get paid. Even through merch sales, they get paid very little, because it depends on how many people buy their stuff. So anyway, I have a list of categories that I do each year, and I'll change it up every now and then. Yeah, this year will be best album non-concept, best album concept, best legends. That was originally that was on a different name last year. I can't remember what it was, but the Kingdom Legends / performance category honors, like I said earlier, the classic Christian metal hard rock bands of the 80s and 90s that have made a comeback in the 21st century, and they've either done a performance or have released an album or EP of sorts, and it's at an amazing level. And these comeback albums have been happening for like 3 or 4 years now, and is just mind blowing and overwhelming. Some bands in this Kingdom Legends really amazing, like Calamity Kills. If you for those who haven't heard that band, that's the brand new band featuring Jamie Rowe of the legendary Guardian.
He makes sounds, doesn't he?
That's an excellent album.
Yep. We just had Jamie on PBL back talking about Calamity and that project. Yeah. He takes a look and he keeps on ticking. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But anyway,
Applehead. Greg Minear's. Okay. We can come back to the Kingdom Legends performance, but for those that are going to be tuning into this interview, I've got a couple of categories that I will list the nominees for, because I know some we're waiting. We're looking forward to that. So the first of these two categories is going to be Best New Band, and for any that watched my live video a couple of weeks ago, noted that I've already listed 3 of them, but I'll list them again for the sake of this podcast. So Best New Band, I've decided to narrow it down to 25 artists. Now I want to do more, but I also want to reserve some for like next year that are in the middle of working on a full-length album to be released in 2024. So
yeah, maybe just the top 4 or 5 of those in those categories, if you would.
Oh, you don't want the whole list?
Yeah, just for time's sake, I'd say just kind of hit spotlight, and they can come over to Holy Metal Underground for the list of nominees.
All right.
Maybe some standouts that you lean towards.
Oh, okay, that sounds good. Well, first off, definitely gotta include Magdalene Rose. She used to be 1/3 of the band GFM, and now she's doing her own solo gig, and she's got an EP coming out later this month. And the first 2 singles she's released so far have been really amazing. Her second single, Bad Residential, of course, has Spencer Chamberlain. The only bad thing is that he's from one of the deconstructed bands Under Oath, but it's still a good song. Another really standout new artist is Vulture's Gathering, and that's unofficially a supergroup. It features Ryan Motivic of Ritual Servant and Motivic features Chaz Bond of Biogenesis.
Shout out to Chaz.
Yeah, and Andre Chiang of Shamash. And they just released an album back in spring called The Hunt. And I'll give you a couple more. Doomsday Collective, that's one of the bands that has been pitched through the Sharon Collective. Shout out to Eric Cherie, wherever he's at. And they released an EP back in December of 2022, and I'm waiting for more music from them because it's just it's like really incredible progressive metal. And then list a couple more. World Gone Cold, gotta have them on there because that features the talents of members from Inhale, Exhale, POD, Demon Hunter, and Disciple. So that's a really, really good band. And then finally, I'll mention Iron Wrath, and they're like a blend of early '90s sounding metal bands like Slaughter and White Zombie and Pantera, and they've got a full-length theatrical experience to accompany the album coming in January 2024.
Gotcha. Oh, again, we're gonna jump back into those categories from time to time.
Okay, sounds good.
We're going to kind of take a brief run at 2023 and talking about new releases. Like I said, a lot of bands are releasing singles. And there's been a lot of great singles, but the majority of those singles have turned into full albums. And so January, there wasn't really a whole lot going on. Again, shout out to Retroactive Records, to Girder, to Locks. A lot of phenomenal re-releases and reissues. So those were actually a good part of the year.
I know Cutlass Cutlass released a couple of new singles at the end of December 2022, going into January 2023, and they're actually bringing back the hard alternative sound that they had started in back in 2020 and 2002. Gotcha. And one of those singles had Kevin Young of Disciple on it, and it just blew me away. I'm like, this is the same Cutlass that did like Tonight, Not What You See, See a Face, is all those great songs.
Well, I love their Heart of Worship, and I mean, anytime you throw Kevin Young into the mix, not only are you going to have that part of ministry, but also you're going to have kind of that gutsy vocal power approach that Kevin brings. A couple releases actually that kind of stood out to me, and so January, and again, I'm focusing on full releases, not on singles, but February we saw Defector. We had release from Swingle and Thompson, When Two Worlds Collide. And my favorite girls in the industry, we got to give a shout out to the females holding it down in the Christian metal community. Zana had called Stronger Than Death. All three of those February 10th. And so that was a trifecta for mid-February.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a breath of fresh air to finally hear a new album from her after 3 years of like just dealing with health issues and just releasing singles when she could, you know. So her new album was definitely worth the wait, despite the 3 year period in between that album and Unshaken.
Absolutely. Again, if you're coming, leave your comments as we're talking about these releases. What was your one single favorite album of 2023? We would love to get your comments. Make sure you read that as well as your name and where you're watching from. The first mega release of 2023, of course, Dominion Day of Destiny by Skillet. That released on the 17th of February. On the Skillet release.
On the Skillet release, I like the deluxe edition over the original release. But one thing I wish some bands would do more of is release deluxe editions on the same day as the regular release. And I say that is because most bands most of the time deluxe editions include new songs that were better than like most of the songs on the regular album itself, you know. And that's happened several times with Skillet. Like they'll release an album of 10, 11 songs, and then a year later re-release it with a few newer songs. And I'm like, these songs would have fit perfect for this album. What hindered them from leaving them off the regular release? You know what I mean? But as far as album, man, I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have a personal favorite, but like the album that Cultist released earlier this year, that was a really good album.
Yeah, we'll touch that as we're going to go month by month, just kind of progressing our way.
Oh, okay.
Through 2023.
I don't have months for these albums because I don't have them written down. So you might have to help me out there a little bit.
That's what you got me for. Brother done some homework. So again, Skillet wrapping up February with Dominion Day of Destiny, bringing us into March. We had the 3rd, the 13th, and 17th. Thrones Tongue Tied EP that was released on Solid State. And then the band that Never Stops Giving, Bride, had their EP with Eyes Wide Open. And then, of course, the full-length album from Narnia, Ghost Town.
Yeah, I would definitely say of those three releases, I would give the edge to Narnia. Progressive metal band from I believe Sweden, and featuring the man, the myth, the legend himself, Christian Legegren. And he's been doing Narnia since late '90s, and I'm really looking forward. He's actually working on a new album with the band that he formed in early 2022 two in the late 2022 called Flames of Fire, and they've got a new album that they're going to be coming out sometime in 2024. So that's why I give the edge to Narnia, because of the man behind it has just been around for a long time and has really put Swedish metal on the map, because he's been involved with so many metal projects in his native country throughout the entire century. So
yeah. And Dorn was ridiculously close trying to get them to play at Immortal this year. But, you know,
I'd like to see them at Immortal next year. That would be awesome.
The issues, it's not so easy to get, you know, some of those overseas bands to. I think they would have been a beautiful touch side by side with Theocracy. If you can imagine what that duo would have been incredible. And so,
I mean, X-Dolls has performed in North America a few times.
Yep.
That's another band I'd like to see come back over here, because I didn't start getting into them until like their third album, and even then they were when they toured North America, it was on a very, very limited basis, and it wasn't anywhere near where I lived.
And let me just voice something here real quick, because, and I've mentioned this on Facebook sites all over the place. The fan base that's like, oh, you know, so and so needs to come, and you know, they need to come and be a part, and they need a tour like Immortal. You know, we see that every year where, you know, well, we need to have this band and this band and this band. Regardless of where you live at, the key to getting bands to come to your area is tracking down your promoters. Promoters are investing money. At the end of the day, the promoters have to pay crazy amounts of money for the venue, for the bands, for food, for gas, for housing, and at the end of the day, they got to make something too. And so, if a promoter is not seeing that they can come on the upside and be profitable, a promoter is going to be very unlikely to bring a band in. And so that's where we as a fan base come to play to promote the bands in our areas. You can ask bands to come to your town all day long, but unless a promoter is connected with it, and like you said, shout out to Dorn. Shout out to Steve Barhorst at BMI. There's people like that around the country that are doing stuff. And as a community, as a metal community, we need to be going back to almost old school street team type mentality. And so that gives fans a home whenever they're on the road.
Yeah, and if you saw the post I made in HMU earlier this year, I said I wanted to do a Holy Metal Underground Festival, be like one day, 6 bands. And Dorn commented and said, well, that's going to run you about $5,000, $6,000. And I said, well, what about sponsors? And he said, well, you can get sponsors, but he said you're going to come to find out it's going to cost you more than what you think. So this takes long-term planning. You know, it's not something you can just throw together in 4 or 5 months and be like, here it is.
Right. And there's a lot of work. A lot of the fans realize the promoter mentality and the work behind. I've had the fortunate / unfortunate privilege to be able to work with bands and seeing some of the behind the scenes mechanics that go into that. And so in your prayers this week, man, pray for promoters around the country. Obviously, our country's in a rough spot. We're seeing attendance kind of dwindle back and forth, but people still have to go. So we need good promoters to rise up and to really support and come behind this machine. And so month of April was kind of a busy month. Vulture's Gathering was one of the bands that you mentioned is kind of standing.
Oh, yeah.
Chosen Stranger, they did a release, Vulture's Gathering. And again, of course, the mega release of April was Disciple Skeleton Psalms. And the one and only Mr. Jimmy P. Brown, the second releasing Novella 2. And so Jimmy's been working on side projects outside Deliverance. Of course, we saw the Deliverance reuniting at Immortal.
Right.
And, absolute stellar performance, and so hopefully we'll see that going on. But
the EP he released, was like all covers, wasn't it?
I believe it was, yes, sir.
Because he was releasing them one at a time. Yeah, but my favorite album for that month was definitely Skeleton Songs by Disciple. I mean, to me, that is their best album since By God.
And they rode a nice wave coming into 2023. They were part of Winter Jam. They were releasing, obviously, some singles leading up to that point. And then right now, on the Christian Music Weekly charts, Promise to Live.
Well, I want to say they scored a gold mine with Josiah Prince. Yes. Adding Josiah Prince to the lineup.
Yep. And so those guys are continuing on. They're actually out on tour right now. So make sure you go to disciplerocks.com for tour dates or check out their Facebook page. Again, we saw some reissues come out. Bride, progressing from the EP release, they released Are You Awake? That was one of 4 May releases.
What about May releases?
That was one of 4 May releases that came out.
Oh, okay.
And so we had 3 of those that were on the 19th. We had Bride. We had so it was 4 May releases. We had Bride, Are You Awake? Let me jump back on screen here with you. It's hard to direct and conduct interviews at the same time. Bride, Perpetual Paranoia, The Wave, that, and also Sweet and Lynch. They're not really categorized.
Oh.
Of course, we know Mr. Michael Sweet.
But that was more mainstream because one half of it is George Lynch. So
yes. And then also Dynasty of Metal released a project called Back to the Past. It's like a 12
or 13 covers album, and a lot of them were pretty good. So So I like that album, and I haven't been following Dale Thompson that much, but I will acknowledge Perpetual Paranoia because I know one of my favorite international guitarists is in that band, Tiago James de Sousa, whom we first heard about with Hand of Fire, the band Hand of Fire.
Yep, and he also was with Jonathan Johnson doing the Godman.
Yeah, Godman. Well, and I was talking with Jonathan Johnson a few months ago, and he said all Tiago has to do is let him know when he's ready to start recording again, and they'll get a second Godman album rolling. So it's basically it's a mutual ready or not ordeal for whenever they get that going.
Yep. Shout out to Golden Warrior MTL coming to us from Canada. And he mentioned a standout album for him was definitely Narnia, Ghost Town.
Oh, yeah.
Can't really go too wrong with that. But Golden Warrior, shout out to you. Appreciate you popping in and joining us on the on this first ever video episode of the Warriors Night Out radio broadcast. Again, make sure you look at the ticker down below on how you can listen to the Warriors Night Out radio broadcast. We do Narnia, and a lot of the bands that we're talking about you can hear on the show. And so, but again, May continued with some re-releases coming into mid-year. The month of
real quickly, I forgot to mention Flames of Fire. Yanni Stefanovic is also in that band. You might know him from his band Mahia.
Okay. Yeah, and guys, let us know if I'm missing any releases. I tried to be as extensive as I could for releases during the year, so please give us a shout out if there's one that should be mentioned that isn't mentioned in our list. And so we're doing a month by month of the releases of 2023. So brings us into June. We had 4 new releases coming out. Witch Hazel with Sacrament, which came out on Metal Blade. Clank is more industrial, of course. I kind of haphazardly threw them into the metal mix because definitely something I think that can fit with the metal community.
Yeah, between the Unholy and Divine, Volume 2. Yeah.
Yep, on Sharon Collective again. Shout out to those folks. And then we had Crucible Divine and Amethyst. Righteous Crusade.
And that was another Dale Thompson band.
Yep. Dale, again, I think Dale and Michael Sweet pretty much run neck to neck.
Yeah.
The busiest guys in music, man, always got their
Right.
something.
Right.
And so, but that wrapped up the month of June. Any comments on those June releases? Again, we have Clank, Crucible Divine, and Amethyst.
Oh, that was a re-release, wasn't it? For Amethyst.
I believe it was. Yeah, it wasn't listed as a re-release.
Shout out to Mark Fichetti for Amethyst. He actually had been. They actually have been around about 30 years, despite not being a big name in the Christian metal market. So, shout out to him. I would say my favorite release for June would have to be a Clank Between the Unholy and Divine Volume 2. The first Volume 1 was pretty good, but I think Clank stepped it up with the second part of that series. Oh, he got more personal with it in a few songs.
Yeah, I think I've only heard one or two songs from the album. I need to get the full thing. As a matter of fact, we will be rolling some Clank out for you guys on next week's episode of Warriors Night Out. So make sure that you guys stay tuned for that. Coming into July, we had 3 releases, full-length albums. For the most part, we had one that's very near and dear to me, Deny the Fallen Echo Chamber, Johnson and Ray Parra. And they actually debuted that at Immortal Festival. And I'm going to release False Star, Sacred Mirrors on Face Down, and another album that you mentioned, Cultist, with the album Slow Suicide on Face Down Records. Your thoughts?
Well, I forgot about Deny the Fallen. That would have to be my favorite release. I really enjoyed the original songs, but they actually did amazing on the Striper and King's X covers. I mean, the King's X cover, if you had never heard King's X before hearing Deny the Fallen's version of The Mission, you'd almost think Deny the Fallen did it first, because they stuck true to the original. That's the best I can say about that album. And Jonathan said that he's hoping that they'll be releasing the second of two more of a trifecta of releases from the band Deny the Fallen. He's saying that he's hoping that the second release will come out before 2023 ends.
Right.
It's a day-by-day basis.
I'm going to see him this weekend. So again, sometimes family comes into play, work comes into play.
Right.
So aspirations are high. Do they always get a chance to deliver on time or not? But stay tuned.
Right.
Definitely some more Deny the Fallen music coming that way. Been a huge fan of the Cultist record, Slow Suicide.
They remind me of Those Who Fear. That's what they remind me of, and that's one thing that drew me to them, is that they sound like Those Who Fear.
Pittsburgh band, by the way, my hometown. Shout out to Those Who Fear.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
Oh, yep. So that was, and again, we got them on the show as well. Slipping into the month of August, we only had 2 new releases that came out. And actually, one is going to be more progressive. It's Sign of Jonah, Real Love. And I'm a huge fan of Neil Morse, The Dreamer, Joseph Part 1. So those are maybe kind of scaled back for more the progressive.
What was the first one?
The first one for August was Sign of Jonah, Real Love. That was an independent release. Again, I heard one song from it. I've not had a chance to hear the full project. Again, we don't want to leave any stone unturned. That's a new one on me. I'll have to check that out. Absolutely, yeah. Those were key for the month of August, and so a little bit of a dip coming out. But Neil Morse, absolutely. I mean, there were some other August releases, but I don't have them written down, or else I would have mentioned them. So apologies for that. Yeah, we got Awake with Spiritual Warfare, which was a reissue. And then again, shout out to Retroactive. They did the reissues of Rock in a Hard Place and Out of the Darkness. Month, and so that kind of filled in the month of August. Right. September, super hot month, scorching hot. hot. So, and by the way, shout out to Martin Simpson giving us a reminder. Eternal Reign, Martin Simpson's Destroyer of Death, Rob Rock, great lineup. Definitely in the top line of key releases of 2023.
And then doesn't CJ Emerson play on that record too? Destroyer of Death?
I cannot confirm.
CJ Emerson of Narnia?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
I believe he's on the album too. And Martin Simpson does drums.
Yeah, I've not got the physical copy of the record. So, Martin, give me a shout. Actually, looking to hopefully get an interview done with those guys as we wrap into November and December. But September releases, we had, again, full plate. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new releases, including After Winter. We had War of Ages, which was a big hit for me, Dominion. Wolves at the Gates. Again, Martin Simpson's Destroyer of Death. Jagged Doctrine, Eve of Destruction, and the brand new Red album, Rated R. And so, again, that's a tough plate to choose from, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very, very tough. But I'm gonna go with a two-way tie. I'm gonna say Red Rated R because I love how ever since they went fully independent that they can go back to creating the music that they love doing in the early days with like albums like End of Silence and Until We Have Faces. And the other one, After Winter, I've been waiting for this album ever since I first got contacted from Nuke Neely, one of the guitarists for After Winter. It's a concept album called Paramnesia, like an hour and 41 minutes of music and occasional dialogue. And it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. And while he says there's not going to be a sequel to that album, I would love for there to be a sequel or at least an EP to complement the way Paramnesia ended in the near future, if it's possible.
Yeah, comments here from Martin Simpson asking you shall receive, Paul.
CJ Grimmark. I don't know why I was saying Emerson. CJ Grimmark, Rex Carroll, Jorn Land, and Rob Rock. Anders Johansson was on drums. He used to drum for Yngwie Malmsteen. And Martin Simpson was on bass. All right, there we go. So thanks for the clarification, Martin. You rock.
Martin, we love you, brother, and thank you for the time and effort that you've put into that record. And we're
amazing debut album.
I've had that one on repeat on a pretty regular basis, and so again, you talk about that spirit of excellence. Martin really went all in for that record, and so very. You're welcome for the shout out, man. We're here to support you and all of our brothers in the metal community, but you really did a great job on that record, man. Shout out to you. And we are wrapping up the month of October, and we've got 2 releases that are out and one that came out today. So Theocracy, of course, and when we talk heavy hitters, the Mosaic record, that's been a long time coming. 2018.
About 5 years.
Yeah. And so they released a couple singles out, videos, and of course we saw them at Immortal Festival this year. Absolute stellar performance. And then also Mangled Carpenter, Seth Matoyer, Broken Curfew Records, Rottweiler. And here's a little trivia piece for you, Mr. Paul Portell.
All right.
Matoyer is Dennis Olsen, the gentleman who was actually a co-worker of mine at Rugged Records. Actually did the artwork for By God and also This Might Sting.
Cool.
He did a lot of those early releases, early 2000 releases with Rugged. And so he goes under the alias and doing spectacular work with Broken Curfew Records. Glay is another release that's there that I think is fantastic. And yeah. So,
and that's a second album of 2023. He also released an album called I believe it's called Left to Judgment, back in the spring of this year.
Yep. And the brand new Mangled Carpenter album is Salvation Syndrome. and that's released with Broken Curfew in partnership with Rottweiler. And then today, Mr. David Benson releasing Death to Dark, Life to Light.
Now, I have not heard that album yet.
Well, it just came out today.
Yeah.
I thought
there's one album.
Inside guy.
Yeah, there is one album you missed that I'm happy to bring to attention. The label debut, but sophomore album from Testimony of Apocalypse.
Oh, of course.
Featuring Paul Graham from Sacrament. And a host of guest vocalists. You've got DJ from Living Sacrifice, Brian Lyda of Burial Extraction, Juan Marrero from Let the Day Perish, Greg Manier of Applehead. You got Derek Corzine. You got J. Paul White of Join the Dead. It's like 11 songs, 44 minutes, and I had a blast reviewing it for HMU.
I feel like I need to hide, man. I feel so embarrassed that I did not think about that when I was going through this list. It didn't.
I was surprised because it's on Rock's Records, you know.
Well, Rock's and then also Jonathan did lead vocals on The Ghost. Singing.
Yeah, right.
And so, but man, that is just an all-star cast. Testimony.
Oh yeah.
The Offering. Again, absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
And
staying true to
that tradition.
Yeah, and a quick refresher. Mike Tyrone was on the first album, then he skipped the Judgment, but he had some. I guess something came up to where he was unable to provide vocals for the second album. Right. And I talked to Paul Graham on Messenger, and he said that even though that they're beginning to write music for a third album, he probably won't be on that album either. It's unfortunate, but I respect for his reasoning for not being able to continue with Testimony of Apocalypse.
Yeah. And Martin, thank you for mentioning Applehead, Mr. Greg Manier.
Yep.
A project.
Well, I did say Greg Manier, but I said it kind of fast, so Martin probably didn't catch it at first.
It kind of came out like.
Yeah. I mean, you understood it, right?
Yes, sure. But yeah.
Don't lie, God. Don't lie. God's listening.
Yes, I know. Knows. And then
I sometimes talk fast, so I don't, because I worry about losing the train of thought, but I try to slow it down so that I don't stutter, because if I talk faster than I think, then stutters happen, you know?
I thought I was the fast talker here, being from Pennsylvania, man. But being in Kentucky for 5 years, it hasn't slowed down a bit. There you go. So that wraps up to today. Tomorrow, November 1st, and I'm just going to cover November and December, and you let me know if anything catches your eye or ear. So remaining releases we have to look forward to for the rest of the year. American Thompson, Sand and Cinder, Tide and Timber on Face Down.
The Heat trilogy was just awesome.
Yeah. And so that's actually just in a couple of days on November 3rd. Signum Regis, Undivided, that's going to be on the 17th. And of course, Soul Driver, we've already heard a single from that. And with Mr. Michael.
Well, they actually just put out a new music video.
I did not catch that. So.
And that of course also has Michael Sweet on vocals.
Yes. So Return Me to Light, that will hit shelves or hit on your online stores on November 17th. A Hill to Die Upon, The Black Nativity, coming out on November 24th. And then one that I'm looking forward to being part of the Sanctuary Camp, of course, Crimson Moonlight. They've got that one coming out on End Time Productions. That's going to be November 24th. And we have one that's listed as Winter. And again, we talked about Flames of Fire. I don't know the definitive release date on that as of yet, but the listing I saw was winter of 2023.
Yeah, and there's no release date, but from what I understand, Human Code was going to be releasing a full length either November or December. And when I saw White Cross at Immortal Fest, they said that their new full length was supposed to come out sometime in November. So still waiting on the updates from those two albums. And of course, Human Code. Of course, Human Code is features members from Barren Cross, Holy Soldier, and Recon.
And
the guy from Recon being obviously George Ochoa.
Yep.
And from Holy Soldier, Terry, known as the Animal, and on vocals, Michael Lee from Barren Cross.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, matter of fact, I chimed in with George this afternoon. I'll be seeing him this weekend at the Sanctuary Gathering. George is part of the Sanctuary Worship team with Jim Laverty and crew. And so, yeah, I've been waiting to get with him. So I may be doing an interview with him while I'm in Nashville. So you can keep an ear open for that on Warriors Night Out Radio broadcast. And George, great dude, and looking forward to spending some time with him. So kind of wrapping it all up, it's been a very strong 2023, some really heavy hitter releases. And we've got a great 2024 to be looking at. All for the King, Biogenesis, Temple of Blood, Triton album, looking to be coming out with Heart of the Dragon. So it doesn't look like 2024 is going to slow down.
I've got a few other bands that that from the people I've talked to. Like I know some artists of the bands I've talked to that I cover in HMU that are supposed to be releasing albums in 2024. I want to mention a few of those as well. The Brave are working on their next release. Dave Cruz and Tucker Dawson together, they're Silence to Burden. They're supposed to be releasing a full length in 2024. Seventh Day Slumber, they're working on a new album. And of course, Iron Wrath has got that theatrical experience coming in January 2024.
And Fear Not's working on some new music too.
Yep, Fear Not, Set for the Falls, looking to release a new album soon. 13 Minutes is getting ready to go into the studio to record some songs for a brand new EP. And and Christopher Johnson, aka Hard Look, he's trying to wrap up a new EP himself as well.
Saw some
from Hard Look, yeah.
Yeah, saw some of the new artwork that Seth has put together for that. Seth Matoyer, stellar graphic designer, pulling out some killer covers.
For Hard Look?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And so, but anyway, folks, Paul Portell from Holy Metal Underground, the HMU Honors. I want to encourage you to sign up.
Fear Not 2024, get ready.
It's going to be great. Make sure you guys go over there now. Get over there. Sign up for Holy Metal Underground. Paul's staying on top of the pulse of Christian.
HMU Honors begins December 2nd. That is a Saturday.
And again, we've got the list of nominees. And again, go over there. You'll be able to see an extensive list of the nominees for each of the categories. And make sure that you recognize. And one final thing I'm going to kind of put as we wrap up this evening. And Paul, I thank you for your time. It's been a great time to finally get a chance to chat with you. We've kind of seen each other in passing. That's been about it.
Yeah, and just a quick note. I wanted to mention that Best Digital Single will be 2 categories because there's just so many great singles. I couldn't narrow them down to just 30 in one category. Absolutely. So there'll be two Best Digital category singles.
There you go.
Category.
Paul Portell, Holy Metal Underground, in the studio with us this evening, and Grease Paint looks like he's been out in the garage working on 13 different vehicles out there, and so, but he's been trying, guys, and so, but let me. I
love the smell of engine grease in the morning.
Oh, geez. With that, you're gone. But guys, let me wrap up by saying this. We recognize artists that are in the rock and metal community, and an awards, representation like this, I think, is essential. But please recognize the fact that your ministry is valuable. If you're in a band, just because you didn't make a list doesn't mean that your ministry is any less valuable in the kingdom. If God has birthed a vision in you, and you feel the need to step out there and to do the music that God has given you, don't let anything stop you from doing that. We live in a society right now that is so essential and important that you need to be out there doing it. Whether you end up on the list of an awards presentation or not, the slogan for the Warriors Night Out radio broadcast is the war cry of the faceless generation. How do we identify somebody? We identify somebody by facial features, by the way they dress, by mannerisms. So the faceless generation is our striving for people not to see us, but to see Christ. And that is so vitally important. So guys, if you're out there just doing music to music, that's okay. But when we realize that our giftings and talents are given to us by our Creator, we don't want to find areas of compromise in that relationship. When you're in a marriage relationship or any type of a relationship, that relationship engulfs you. It becomes the fiber of who you are. And so I want to challenge every band that is in the part of our community. Stand strong, commit your giftings and talents to the Creator who's bestowed those gifts upon us, and know that we are here to pray for you. We are here to support you. And if you need an accountability body for encouragement and support, wearemetal.com. Pastor Bob Beeman is kind of the godfather of Christian metal. We probably wouldn't have a Christian rock and metal community today had it not been for Pastor Bob Beeman and the ministry of Sanctuary. And I don't say that, and I know he definitely doesn't put that out there for accolades. But we need to get back to a heart of worship, regardless of the genre of music. Worship is not a genre of music, it's a lifestyle. And so, again, if you're a band, or maybe you're an individual that's like, you know what, I feel like God's really pulling me in the direction of doing hard music, connect with us at Sanctuary. One of the reasons the Sanctuary started was to form an accountability body and a teaching body to equip bands to be able to go out when they do live shows, to be able to do the work of the ministry. That is so vital, important, especially in today's day and age. Pray for the bands, support the bands, go buy a t-shirt, go buy a CD, go buy a record, buy a ticket. If you keep an eye on Holy Metal Underground, or look at your favorite bands, check their tour schedules, find out when they're going to be in the area, go support them. Because without our support as a fan base, there will be no Christian metal community. And I know that's a bold statement to say, but I think it's true. As a community, we've gotten used to, streaming music on iTunes or Spotify, and we've kind of gotten laxed in our support of the bands. Or we download music to get free music, and we don't take the time to invest into those bands. So I want to encourage you with that, to get out there and support those bands. Again, Golden Warrior giving us a shout out. Stay strong in Christ, brothers. We love you. Thank you for the shout out, and thank you for the thumbs up and everything. Martin and everybody who's popped in tonight, Dave Bell, AJR04, I know we'll see you tomorrow morning. Again, I just want to give a reminder that tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 a.m. Pacific, we will be doing our discussion panel on understanding addiction. Pastor Bob is going to be with us. I will be co-host with that. Gary Hansen, we talked about Fear Not tonight. Gary will be joining us. And again, my good brother Troy Hill, he's the Louisville representative for the faith-based recovery program, Isaiah House Treatment Center. And we're going to have an open discussion about a very hard topic. And we want to encourage you guys to be there with us. I want to wrap up with a word of prayer. And again, we want to say thank you guys for taking the opportunity. Again, shout out to Paul with Holy Metal Underground. Get out there, support what he's doing. And we want to make sure that we're continuing. Did you enjoy tonight's broadcast? If you want to see more of these, let us know, and we would love to continue that you enjoyed this. Let's wrap up with a word of prayer, and hopefully we see everybody tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And don't forget, the Sanctuary Gathering is going to be coming up. That is going to be this weekend. That is going to be at the Sanctuary campus in Nelson, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. It is 100% worth the drive. It makes the drive while the weather's nice. Saturday at 3 p.m. and Sunday at 9:30. Make sure that you get there. I will be there. I know Coach North and Coach Brennan will be there. George Villas and Roberti. A lot of things we're going to have problems with. So let's take a moment to play real quick. And again, make sure you like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WNO Rock. Again, we got episodes coming up tomorrow. Hopefully, you watch the future. Again, schedule. We've got episodes coming up on tomorrow on the GER and also Denver Self Radio, and then Saturday, re-air on Denver Self Radio, and then, of course, Monday, we always release the episode. Heavenly Father, we thank you for every single individual that's come out tonight. Lord, I pray as a mental community that we can continue to push forward, we will stand uncompromisingly for your truth. And we thank you for the blessing of every single band that is out there doing the ministry and ministering to us. Lord, give us the resources to be able to support them. And together as a community, we will continue to grow. We thank you and love you. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Guys, we're going to wrap up. I didn't get a chance to spin this, but I think it's a great way to wrap up. Since we're talking about sanctuary as your funding gift for Christmas. Once you participate to look at everything through, we all love it. And we want to make sure that we're going to cover call out for March 16th. March 16th is where the exactly the time that is metal. March 16th is the and that's the and again, guys, we are walking up there. Leave us your comments and thoughts. If you want to everybody's been talking about the sanctuary up there. We're coming from a lot. Part of that. But once again, you guys, we're going to have a great week. We'll be here on the sanctuary national lecture. 10 a.m. with Bob and myself and all everybody. And Troy, over to the mission we're talking about. I hope you have a great week, and we will see you tomorrow, hopefully. God bless you guys. Hope you guys have a great one.